Bernie, good to have you back. So let's start with this, with the tariffs, since it's the big news today. Markets dropped after the announcement of the new reciprocal tariffs and the baseline tariffs. The left and their media are calling Liberation Day Recession Day. What's your take on this?
Well, someone's ultimately going to have to pay the bill, right? And the question is, who is that going to be? Is that going to be the countries that actually want our business? They actually want to continue sending products and goods into the United States, and so they're going to wind up footing the bill? Or is it going to get passed down to the American consumer? We don't really know at this point exactly what the end result is going to be. But I think that this is still a part of the negotiation. I'm an attorney, and when you want to negotiate, you don't start with what you actually want. You start with a much, much, much higher amount. If a case is worth $100,000, you start at $5 million. I mean, some ungodly amount is where you're going to start at, and then you back down to a level that is sustainable. And I think that's exactly what Trump's doing. He's a negotiator. I think he's negotiating at this point. The market wasn't expecting it to be as strong. They weren't expecting that large number to come up. And I think that's why a week before some of these actually come into play. And I think what you're going to see happen is at some point in the next week or very quickly, there's going to be some conversation. News is going to come out. It didn't happen. It didn't get employed. It was they negotiated, and you'll see the stock market shoot right back up. I think ultimately that's probably what's going to happen. But we'll see. We don't know.
Okay, so we talked about Wall Street. What about Main Street? What could this mean for Main Street, the American workers? We saw many union workers, UAW workers at the White House yesterday supporting it.
Well, if it ultimately passes on down those expenses to Main Street's going to feel it. Absolutely. If that inflation increases and the price increases, it's going to hit Main Street for sure. Inflation could then, creep back up in the 5% range. And then the Federal Reserve is kind of stuck because they've talked about lowering interest rates. They can't do that anymore. They're going to have to possibly raise interest rates. And no one on Wall Street is going to like that. Main Street's not going to like that either. It makes everything more expensive. So it could pass down to the consumer. But I think the important point is that we don't have to wait for that to happen in order for the effects of it to be felt. In other words, we tend to spend money based on how we feel. It's called the wealth effect. If we're feeling good, we spend money. If we're not feeling good about things, we don't spend money. So if a consumer thinks that these Trump tariffs are going to be passed on to them, they're likely to quit spending now before it actually hits their pocketbook. And if they quit spending now, it's going to hit Wall Street right away as well, too. So they both interplay, but it doesn't actually have to be implemented before the effects are felt.
Yeah, and we're talking about this is a big Control-Alt-Delete of the economy, and President Trump only has a few years to get this done, so he has to go big, right? So there might be some pain. What do you see in the long term? Is this worth it in the long term?
Yeah, well, there's definitely going to be some pain. I mean, we've seen that pain, but ultimately, if we look at what's the reasoning behind it, he's trying to bring jobs and manufacturing back to the country. I mean, I think that's the overall good of why he is doing what he's doing. And as you mentioned right before I came on, all the companies that have committed hundreds of billions of dollars, probably well over $1 trillion when you add it all up to this country in line with his goal. So there is that goal that he seems to be making. Now, he does only have 4 years. And the reality is you can get a lot done. We've seen how much he can get done in 4 years. So I think that long term, it's going to be good for the economy, but there is going to be a short-term pain as we start to make that adjustment.
Yeah, well, Australia is already saying that beef is set to get more expensive for Americans. Steak, burgers, due to these new tariffs, and some worry that American farmers will be negatively impacted as well because we export a lot of our agriculture to Canada, and a majority of oil and gas that we use come from Canada. So if we want lower energy prices, why tariffs on energy?
Well, it goes back to drill, baby, drill. The fact is that he wants the United States to be energy independent. I mean, that's part of what he ran on. That's what he talks on. So if you want the energy companies to stay in the United States and to drill, baby, drill in the United States and to become more energy independent, you're going to do exactly what he did, and you're going to tariff the energy cut that is being imported from other countries. So that makes sense as far as that's the reason why he's doing that.
Same reasoning behind the 25% tariffs on foreign-built cars. Buy American, made in America. Tesla's made in America. Buy that. What's your take on the continuing jobless claims? They fell last week, but are higher compared to this time last year. How does this fit into the bigger picture?
Well, it's America is a GDP economy. 70% of GDP is consumption. So as goes the consumer, is the way the economy is going to wind up going. And it's no question that the labor market has softened, and inflation has softened as well, but it's been stuck at this level for a little while, just under 3%, depending on what measure you use. And because the labor market has softened, the reality is that it is taking a little longer to get jobs. There aren't as many jobs available per worker. When I was doing interviews a couple of years ago, I was talking about 1.9 jobs available for every worker. Now I think that number is 1.07. So 1.07 jobs available per worker, which means that a worker cannot just go out and get another job like they were able to before. So if the worker can't get jobs, the worker's going to have less money to spend. If the worker has less money to spend, that's going to affect corporate revenues and could definitely push us towards a recession. And now if consumers think that these tariffs are going to stick, if companies think that these tariffs are going to stick, they're probably not going to hire as many consumers. So as a result of these tariffs, it could be even harder tomorrow to get a job than it was 2 days ago. So it's all based on the consumer spending habits.
Well, what about the new investments? They're going to have to hire new jobs, the manufacturing coming back to America. Not going to happen overnight, but we definitely need those new jobs.
Well, that's the key. So you've got short term and you've got long term, right? The short term is it's not going to happen overnight. The long term is it ultimately is going to happen. These oil companies that have to shift, if they're going to shift at all and bring that oil production, or focus the oil production back here in the United States, that's not going to happen overnight either. So it is that long-term pain or short-term pain rather, for the potential long-term gain. And I think that's what we're seeing, and we're going to go through it, but we're America. We're going to get through it. I don't think it's going to be as bad ultimately as people thinking now. Whenever the market goes down, massively like it did today, 1,500 points, when no one's feeling good. But that could change tomorrow or Monday or Tuesday as soon as some negotiation news comes out that everything's worked out. And guess what? We're fine and we settled and we're all going to be good. And you'll see the market bounce back and everybody will be feeling happy and healthy.
I like that outcome. I like that prediction. Anthony Zuccaro, president of Providence Financial and Insurance Services. Appreciate your time today, as always. Thank you.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.